The first time I noticed the letter, I thought it was just another advertisement. It was tucked neatly between my electric bill and a grocery coupon booklet. The envelope was stiff, white, and printed with bold black letters across the top. I sighed before even opening it. Living in Cedar Grove meant dealing with the HOA. They sent letters about everything: grass length, mailbox paint color, trash placement. If a leaf dared fall on your driveway, someone from the board would probably notice. Still, I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. My eyes moved down the page slowly until they landed on the reason: excessive dust accumulation on property driveway and yard. I blinked. Dust. I read the sentence again, convinced I had misunderstood. Apparently, according to the HOA, my driveway had created a dust hazard affecting neighborhood appearance. They had attached 2 photos. Both were taken from the sidewalk across the street. In the photos, my driveway looked exactly the same as it always had: gray concrete with a thin layer of dry dirt from the wind. The fine was listed at the bottom. If the issue wasn't corrected within 7 days, the fine would increase. I leaned back in my chair and laughed. Not a small chuckle, a full, tired laugh that echoed through the kitchen. Dust. They were fining me for dust. Cedar Grove was one of those neighborhoods that looked perfect from the outside. Every lawn was trimmed. Every house had matching mailboxes. Every fence had the exact same shade of beige. The HOA board loved rules. In fact, I was pretty sure they loved rules more than the people who actually lived there. And leading the charge was Mrs. Patterson, the HOA president. Mrs. Patterson was the type of person who walked her poodle every morning while scanning the neighborhood like a security camera. Her favorite hobby seemed to be writing violation notices. 2 months ago, she fined someone for leaving a basketball hoop in their driveway overnight. Last month, she cited a family because their holiday lights were still up on January 3rd. And now, apparently dust was a problem. 3 days after receiving the letter, I was outside washing my car when I saw her. Mrs. Patterson walked slowly down the sidewalk, holding a clipboard. Her poodle trotted beside her like a tiny assistant manager. She stopped in front of my driveway. Then she looked down. Then she wrote something. I wiped my hands on a towel and walked toward the curb. "Good morning," I said. She looked up with a tight smile. "Oh, hello," she replied. "Just doing a routine inspection of the dust." Her smile thinned slightly. The HOA is committed to maintaining the neighborhood's visual standards. I glanced down at the driveway. "You mean the dirt the wind blows in?" She tapped her clipboard. "It's the homeowner's responsibility to maintain their property." "So, you want me to stop the wind?" Her poodle barked once. Mrs. Patterson didn't laugh. 7 days, she said calmly, or the fine increases. Then she walked away. Later that evening, my neighbor Dave came over. Dave lived 2 houses down and had lived in Cedar Grove long enough to understand the HOA madness. He was drinking a soda when I showed him the letter. He read it once. Then he read it again. Then he started laughing so hard he nearly spilled his drink. "Dust," he wheezed. "Dust," I confirmed. He shook his head. "They're running out of things to complain about." "I swept the driveway yesterday," I said. Dave raised an eyebrow. "And today there's dust again." Dave leaned back in the chair. "Well, yeah, that's how dust works." We both sat there for a moment. Then Dave smirked. "You know what would technically solve it?" I looked at him. "What?" He grinned. "Cover the ground with something that isn't dust." At first it sounded like a joke. But later that night, while scrolling online, I saw something that made me pause. A bulk craft supplier selling industrial glitter. 5-pound bags. Bright colors. Silver. Gold. Rainbow. My brain started working in a very dangerous direction. The HOA rule specifically said, it did not say anything about glitter. Technically speaking, glitter was not dust. I leaned closer to the screen. 5-pound bags. Discount for bulk orders. Free shipping. I slowly smiled. 3 days later, the boxes arrived. A lot of boxes. The delivery driver looked confused as he stacked them on my porch. "Craft project?" he asked. "Something like that," I replied. Inside were 20 bags of glitter. Bright silver. shiny enough to reflect sunlight. Dave came over that evening. When he saw the boxes, he stared at them in disbelief. Please tell me you're not doing what I think you're doing. I opened one of the bags. The glitter sparkled under the porch light like crushed diamonds. Dave started laughing. Oh no. Oh yes. You're going to start a war. I grabbed a broom. Technically, I said, I'm solving a dust problem. The next morning, I woke up early. Very early. The neighborhood was still quiet. Birds chirped. Sprinklers ticked softly across nearby lawns. Perfect timing. I carried the first bag out to the driveway. Then I opened it. Thousands of tiny reflective particles shimmered inside. I took a deep breath. Then I poured. The glitter spilled across the driveway like liquid metal. I used the broom to spread it evenly. Then I opened another bag. And another. And another. By the time I finished, the entire driveway looked like a disco ball exploded. The yard wasn't much different. Silver sparkles covered every inch of visible dirt. In the sunlight, it looked like my house had been sprinkled with stardust. I stepped back to admire my work. No dust. Not a single grain. Technically perfect. The first neighbor walked past. It was Mr. Alvarez from across the street. He stepped onto the edge of the driveway while waving hello. Then he looked down. His shoes were covered in glitter. He took another step. Now the sidewalk had glitter. Then he walked away, leaving a trail of sparkling footprints. I couldn't stop smiling. Around noon, the wind picked up. Just slightly. Not enough to move dirt, but enough to lift glitter. Tiny reflective flakes floated into the air like metallic snow. They drifted across the sidewalk, across the street, into neighboring yards. Every person who walked past carried a little bit with them. By evening, the entire street sparkled. Clipboard. Poodle. Inspection face. She stopped in front of my house. Then she froze. Her eyes widened as sunlight bounced off my driveway. Her poodle stepped forward, directly into the glitter. Tiny sparkles clung instantly to its fluffy white fur. Mrs. Patterson gasped. The dog shook once. Glitter exploded everywhere. She looked down at her shoes. Silver. Shiny. Sparkling. Then she looked up at me standing on the porch. What is this? I smiled politely. No dust. Mrs. Patterson stood at the edge of my driveway like she had just witnessed a crime scene. Her poodle, whose name I later learned was Princess, was now completely covered in glitter. The tiny silver flakes clung to its fur like static electricity. Princess shook again. More glitter flew everywhere. Mrs. Patterson gasped as the sparkles landed on her black pants. What did you do to your property? She demanded. I leaned casually against the porch railing. I solved the dust problem. Her eyes narrowed. This is unacceptable. Actually, I replied calmly, there is no dust anywhere on my driveway. Your notice specifically said the driveway must remain free of visible dust. She looked down again. Technically, I was right. There wasn't a single speck of dust. Just glitter. A lot of glitter. Mrs. Patterson opened her mouth, closed it, and then scribbled furiously on her clipboard. This will be discussed at the next HOA meeting, she snapped. Princess barked. Glitter flew off its ears like tiny fireworks. Mrs. Patterson turned sharply and walked away, leaving a trail of sparkling footprints down the by. The next morning, the entire street had begun to change. It started small. A sparkle here. A shiny footprint there. But glitter is a strange thing. Once it appears, it spreads everywhere. The mailman walked up my driveway around 10 a.m. When he left, his boots carried glitter down the sidewalk. From there, it reached 3 other driveways. Later that afternoon, Mrs. Jenkins walked her golden retriever past my house. The dog stepped into the glitter-covered grass. 5 minutes later, Mrs. Jenkins' entire front yard looked like someone had dumped a bag of craft supplies on it. Dave came over around lunchtime. He stopped halfway up my driveway and stared at the sparkling ground. Wow, he said. What? I asked. You didn't tell me it would look like a Las Vegas parking lot. The sun reflected off the glitter so brightly that it almost hurt to look at. The whole driveway shimmered. Cars driving past slowed down just to stare. One teenager even took a picture. Dave stepped carefully toward the porch. But by the time he reached the steps, his shoes were completely covered. He looked down. Then he laughed. Oh, this is going to get everywhere. The HOA group chat exploded that afternoon. Yes, Cedar Grove had a neighborhood group chat. And yes, Mrs. Patterson controlled it like a dictator. The first message came from Linda Carter. Why is there glitter all over the sidewalk? Then another. My dog came home covered in sparkles. Then another. Did someone drop craft supplies on the street? I sat on the couch reading the messages while eating popcorn. Then Mrs. Patterson posted, "We are aware of the glitter situation on Maple Drive and will address it immediately." Dave texted me a screenshot. Dave, you're trending in the HOA chat.
Good.
By day 3, the situation had evolved into something truly impressive. Glitter behaves differently than dust. Dust settles. Glitter travels. Every step people took carried a little bit farther. Kids walking to school tracked it onto the sidewalk. Parents carried it into their cars. Car tires picked it up and spread it across the street. Soon, the intersection at the end of Maple Drive had tiny sparkles scattered across the pavement. Even the grocery store parking lot a mile away probably had some by then. Dave came over again that evening. He pointed down the road. You see that? A faint shimmering trail ran down the entire block. It's migrating, he said, like glitter wildlife. 3 days later, an email arrived. Subject, urgent HOA meeting. Community issue. I knew exactly what it was about. The meeting took place at the neighborhood clubhouse. Nearly everyone showed up, mostly because people wanted to see the glitter guy. When I walked inside, the room went quiet. Mrs. Patterson sat at the front table with 2 other board members. Her expression looked like someone who had just bitten into a lemon. Thank you all for attending, she began stiffly. She clicked a remote. A photo appeared on the projector screen. It was my driveway, blindingly shiny. Murmurs filled the room. Mrs. Patterson pointed at the screen. This is an example of a homeowner violating community aesthetic standards. I raised my hand. Yes, she said coldly. Technically, I said, your violation notice only mentioned dust. A few people chuckled. She ignored them. This glitter has spread throughout the neighborhood, she continued. Another photo appeared. The sidewalk, covered in sparkles. Then another. Mrs. Jenkins' dog, also covered in sparkles. The room burst into laughter. Mrs. Patterson slammed her hand on the table. This is not funny. Dave leaned over and whispered to me. It's a little funny. One of the board members cleared his throat. Is glitter actually against the HOA rules? Mrs. Patterson hesitated. Well, no. Then what rule has been violated? Silence filled the room. Finally, she said, it creates a nuisance. Someone in the back spoke up. You fined him for dust. Another voice added. He got rid of the dust. More laughter. Mrs. Patterson's face turned red. This is clearly malicious compliance. Dave whispered again. She's learning new vocabulary tonight. The meeting ended without a clear decision, which meant one thing. The glitter stayed. Over the next week, Cedar Grove slowly transformed into the most unintentionally festive neighborhood in the city. Sunlight made the streets sparkle. People tracked glitter into their houses. Vacuum cleaners everywhere started making strange noises. Mrs. Jenkins claimed she found glitter in her refrigerator. No one understood how it got there, but glitter has a way of doing that. Dave came over one afternoon holding his phone. You're famous. He showed me a local community forum. Someone had posted photos titled, The Glitter House of Cedar Grove. The comments were hilarious. This is the best HOA revenge I've ever seen. That glitter will still be there in 2040. Honestly, the neighborhood looks better now. I leaned back in my chair. The best part, not a single grain of dust anywhere. 2 weeks later, another envelope arrived. Cedar Grove Homeowners Association. I opened it slowly. Inside was a new notice. But this one was different. It read, and at the bottom, a brand new Are You Dave read the letter and laughed. You changed the HOA rulebook. I smiled. Worth it.